It's Friday night, and Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer who was convicted of killing George Floyd, was just stabbed repeatedly in prison. Police have not yet noted the name of the person who stabbed him, but did say that they had to perform life-saving measures at the scene. Chauvin was being held at a medium-security federal corrections institute in Arizona. Now, the prison he's in is sort of unique because it holds inmates who are either in transfer or who are pre-trial inmates for the District of Arizona. And this is not the first time that this prison has been in the news this year for a high-profile incident. At the beginning of this year, the camp was put on lockdown after an inmate tried to shoot his wife during a visitation. Somehow that inmate got a pistol, made it through a pat-down, went into the visitation room where his wife and children were sitting, pulled the pistol out, pulled the trigger, the gun did not go off. He tried to fire the gun 4 more times before throwing the gun in the air, jumping a fence, and escaping for a period of time. I digress. Back to Derek Chauvin. He was brought to the hospital for his injuries. His lawyers had been asking for him to be kept in solitary confinement, thinking something like this might happen. And just last week, the Supreme Court rejected Derek Chauvin's murder conviction appeal. Thoughts and prayers.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about some pretty shocking but not so shocking news involving Derek Chauvin, the Minneapolis police officer who was found guilty of killing/murdering George Floyd, which led to the most violent political protest that we've ever seen in our country in the BLM riots. Now, Derek Chauvin has been serving time in an Arizona federal prison for violating George Floyd's civil rights, according to federal charges, and for murdering him, according to state charges. However, Derek Chauvin has been appealing the rulings that were levied against him because there's been new evidence that has emerged that maybe, just maybe, George Floyd did not die because of Derek Chauvin's knee on his shoulder. Okay, that George Floyd may have been under the influence of narcotics, and that probably was the primary cause of his death. Okay, and again, this new evidence that is coming out also includes evidence that the prosecution of Derek Chauvin was political. Okay, you had a bunch of these prosecutors that were pressured to go after Derek Chauvin, even though the evidence suggested that maybe, just maybe, he was not the one that was primarily responsible for George Floyd's death. Now, those appeals have not been working out for Derek Chauvin. Recently, his appeal had got denied by the Supreme Court, but he's going to continue to try to gain his freedom and to prove his innocence, even while behind bars. However, it seems like, there are some people behind bars, or maybe some people in general, who don't want to give Derek Chauvin an opportunity to continue to appeal, because there's news that come out that allegedly he has almost been stabbed to death while in prison. Okay, that he is in serious condition, right? Serious life-threatening condition. It seems like he's going to make it, though. But nonetheless, he's been targeted and stabbed in prison. Take a look.
We start tonight with breaking news, brand new here at 10 o'clock. The Associated Press says Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd, was stabbed by another inmate earlier today at the Federal Correctional Institution in Tucson. That's on Wilmot, just south of I-10. And that's where we find KGUN 9's Kenny Dar. Kenny, what more can you tell us at this point?
Well, the Bureau of Prisons did release a statement tonight, not directly naming Chauvin in that statement, but the statement did state that the stabbing occurred around 12:30 this afternoon. No employees were hurt during the incident, and those employees that did respond to the incident performed life-saving measures on that stabbed prisoner, again presumed to be Derek Chauvin. Now, he was later taken to a hospital by EMS for further treatment and evaluation. And again, the Bureau of Prisons not directly naming Chauvin as that prisoner who got stabbed, but a source close to the situation telling the Associated Press that it was indeed Derek Chauvin. The FBI was notified, and all visitation to the prison is currently suspended.
Thank you for that, Kenny. FCI Tucson is a medium security prison. Chauvin was sent there last August to simultaneously serve a 21-year federal sentence for violating Floyd's civil rights and a 22-and-a-half-year state sentence for second-degree murder. The Minneapolis Police Department Police Chief Brian O'Hara had this to say, quote, "Violence is barbaric and tragic and should never be cause for celebration. Derek Chauvin's conduct on May 25, 2020 was unequivocally criminal and resulted in death. Today's news is cause for quiet reflection as the world continues to process and Minneapolis tries to heal from very open wounds."
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Now, of course, the left are celebrating this, okay, because they love celebrating violence, right? And they're basically taking a victory lap over the fact that Derek Chauvin allegedly was stabbed almost to death in federal prison. Take a look.
So, I'm sure by now everybody knows who Derek Chauvin is, he who had his knee on George Floyd's neck for over 9 minutes. Well, seems that we have some good news. It is being reported by the Federal Bureau of Prisons that Derek Chauvin has been stabbed and is in serious condition. Around 12:30 p.m. today at the Federal Correctional Facility in Tucson, former Minneapolis policeman Derek Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd, was stabbed by another inmate. And for some unknown reason, prison employees performed life-saving measures before Chauvin was taken to the hospital. And in some good news, Chauvin's attacker was also taken to the hospital for further treatment and evaluation, but he was not in any serious condition. And the stabbing comes just 1 week after the United States Supreme Court rejected Chauvin's appeal of his second-degree murder conviction in the May 2020 death of George Floyd.
Oh no, I'm devastated.
Do you guys think that when Derek was stabbed in prison today, Derek Chauvin, do you guys think he asked for his mom?
I cannot say that I am shocked by this development by any means, nor will I send any form of thoughts and prayers. But, again, that is Derek Chauvin, the police officer that murdered George Floyd, has been stabbed in a federal corrections facility and has been transferred to a Tucson hospital. He is listed in serious condition.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, you have leftists basically celebrating the fact that Derek Chauvin got stabbed in prison, which in my opinion is not anything to celebrate. I think that even if you believe that Derek Chauvin actually murdered George Floyd, I think that there's something to be said about the fact that he's been sentenced and he's serving his time, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he should lose his life in a stabbing like that, okay? But, you know, hey, this is where we're at in modern day politics where, you know, hey, this is the type of stuff that you see. But, you know, for me personally, I think that the fact that he's not actually getting more protection is kind of the biggest story here. The fact that he's been put in a facility that has already had some security issues. It almost seems like he's kind of being set up and put in these situations where this could happen. Again, is this a coincidence? Who knows? Okay, considering that the guy is desperately appealing. Okay, again, as evidence emerges that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't the primary cause of George Floyd's death. Who knows? Okay, but regardless, he's been put in a situation where clearly they're not trying to protect him, despite the fact that he is a high-profile inmate who, you know, based off the mainstream liberal media narrative that has radicalized people, right? You would think he would be a target in federal prison, okay? He's a police officer, or was a former police officer. He, you know, is a flaming racist, according to the mainstream liberal media, okay? That type of stuff, not going to play well in prison, especially if you're letting this guy mingle among the general population. Essentially, you're making him a target. You're putting a target on his back. You know, I look at the bigger picture in regards to when stuff like this happens, right? I look at what's currently happening in the country in regards to the defunded police movement, the fact that police are not signing up to do the job anymore. They don't want to be police officers anymore. Police are retiring en masse, okay? They're leaving the profession. They don't want to sign up to be police officers because of situations like this, okay? Because imagine a police officer looking at a situation like this, or a prospective police officer, somebody who's like thinking about being a police officer, and they realize that, okay, well, if I just so happen to deal with a guy who's a criminal and he's resisting arrest and he's not following instructions and I have to use force against him, and that use of force just so happens to coincide with this person's death. Now, regardless of whether or not the use of force actually caused the death, doesn't matter. If the public thinks that the use of force caused the death, regardless of whether or not the use of force was justified, then I am going to go to prison, right? I'm going to be smeared as a racist. I'm never going to be able to hold another job. I'm never going to be able to have another a normal life, okay? I'm going to go to prison. And then when I get to prison, they're not going to protect me as a high-profile inmate and as a former police officer, knowing that I'm a target. They're just going to let me get stabbed to death. Why would any police officer sign up for that? Why would any police officer sign up for that? Because that is what people who are thinking about being police officers are seeing. This is what they're seeing. They're seeing what is happening to Derek Chauvin, what happened to his partners as well too, who were just, watching, who were just standing by as a guy who had more experience than they did was doing something they all thought was correct procedure. These people got thrown in prison as well too, right? So again, what is the message being sent here? You can be a rookie. You can just sign up for the job and you can simply be following orders, and then you could be thrown in prison for it. Okay, if you don't, not follow orders, right? It's amazing how that works. That is what is the message that is being sent to people who are thinking about being police officers, and that's why people are running away from the profession. This is why you have shortages across the country, and what has that led to? That has led to an increase of crime and violence, particularly in these inner liberal cities, because they are lacking staff. They're lacking people who actually want to do the job. The reason why people don't want to do the job because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's a thankless profession. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you end up having to take the life of a criminal, even if it's justified, even if it's to save yourself, okay, even if it's in self-defense, clearly in self-defense, the woke revolutionaries will come out of the woodwork and say that you're racist. You're racist, okay? They're going to try to have you thrown in prison, right? You're going to lose the ability to feed your family. You're not going to be able to live a normal life anymore. Again, a lot of people are saying that it's just simply not worth it. And that's why stories like this are stories that you shouldn't celebrate. Okay, even if you think the guy is guilty, you shouldn't celebrate this. Because what is happening is that this whole Derek Chauvin thing and George Floyd thing has driven this country off of a cliff when it comes to policing in this country. Police are not signing up to do the job, and you have Democrats and liberals that are running these liberal cities because of what happened with George Floyd. They've enacted these policies that has basically made crime legal. And as a result, people have lost their lives, and these cities are actively being destroyed. But yet you have leftists kiki and ha-ha over Derek Chauvin being stabbed, not realizing the consequences and the message that this type of incident is sending to people who are thinking about signing up for the job. But hey, it looks like he's, still alive. So we'll see if he makes it. But, it's not looking good for Derek Chauvin, right? His story is serving more of a warning sign for anybody that is looking to get into policing more so than it is in regards to actual justice in this country. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.